Hello, folks. It's such an amazing honor to be here, and I'm feeling great to see you all. I'm Shambhawi Spriha, your today's speaker, and I'll be talking about expressive writing and its healing form. I'm a postgraduate and now proceeding as an educator, where learning is the base. The profession of an educator is absolute bliss, as its prime objective of gaining and transferring knowledge is what makes it more lively and dynamic fun. So, while growing up, life has been through many ups and downs. During the earlier days of my life, it happened that I stumbled onto various situations where sharing my bits was one tough task to do. As I belonged to a small town, not everyone was all ears to what I had to say or to convey. The society here was quite conservative back then, which somehow afflicted me. My heart felt heavy as I was unable to speak out about my traumas and anxiety to my near and dear ones, even with my parents. Things kept piling up in my mind. I wanted someone to listen to me. People yet are unaware about the facts like trauma, anxiety, depression, and so on. It is yet considered to be a taboo. People dealing with such issues are labeled to be a psychotic, which is frivolous, and which is why I was quite apprehensive and conscious while discussing about my anxiety, whether people can relate to it or not. The fear of negative responses or being judged was one main reason for me to be concerned about it. Eventually, it happened that I came across a therapeutic process known as expressive writing, wherein I could jot down anything and everything about how I felt and what I felt and whatsoever came into my mind without the fear of writing into a proper sentence or using proper verbs, articles, prepositions, and so on. Also, no one could build a perception of me, which I feared the most. Writing provides us the space to deliver our emotions which we otherwise refrain from. Expressive writing is a cathartic process and healing in nature. One can abstain from being a mere sufferer of his or her circumstances. This is the best method to deal with trauma, emotional upheavals, anxiety, depression, and so on, simply by pouring out myriad emotions into a piece of paper. It benefits us with the freedom of expression on a very personal level. It is written in the first person and can be written on any literary form such as memoirs, poetry, songs, essays, and so on. Specifically, here the priority lies with the person's feelings and not the events. To be specific, working in the sector of academia itself brings us enormous experiences and learning within. In the due procedure of training, I got to visit schools and meet n number of students where each of them was individually different. I was asked to observe the classes and perform case studies on students who were either gifted or lagging behind for some reason or the other. I encountered with some of the students who looked fuzzy, with multiple of emotions popping on their face and brooding over something, which eventually captured my attention as an educator. I tried talking to them and comprehend their situation and discuss the anxiety or whatsoever dilemma bogged them down. As Van Gogh has pointed, treat people as if they were what they ought to be and you help them to become what they are capable of being. Further, I found my students unable to speak up because of the trauma and trepidation which had become a stumbling block to their voice. The level of anxiety and depression was up to this extent which could be acknowledged easily. Individuals are tied to one another by powerful, empathetical, emotional attachments and loyalties which may differ in intensity over time, yet persist. As a facilitator, the first and foremost thing I could think of was to draw them out of the difficult situations they were bounded by. I asked them to pen down their emotional thoughts and experiences into a piece of paper. And thus, I stated the prominence and functionality of expressive writing to them. It was James Payne Baker, a social psychologist at University of Texas, who founded this impactful mechanism to deal with trauma, which ended in decreased emotional upheavals, depression, stress, etc., and improved social life and increased work performance. Now, I would like to mention that there's a certain process of expressive writing which includes 15 to 20 minutes of writing for 4 consecutive days. It includes minimum of 3 days to cut the first term, The topic can be intense, deep, and very personal. One need not worry about the rules of grammar, syntax, spellings, and can keep constantly writing without focusing on the error in framing their emotions. Creating a narrative of your own gives you the authority to control your senses and the matters that are bothering you either ways. I ask my students to perform the same method in short sessions and reflect on it honestly and thoughtfully. Putting words to your emotion increases the activity in the regulatory area of the brain and enhances the chances for the acceptance of the particular incident or the occurrence that took place. Hence, I realized in both the cases, with me and even with my students, that putting down our fear, trauma, and anxiety into a paper can help us cope up with the fact and face the reality and work on it. This was immensely satisfactory for me as an individual treating my emotional upheavals and as a teacher to see my students mitigating their apprehensiveness and traumas and moving forward and rejoicing their life away from their past experiences. Expressive writing did work for me as a therapy, and I hope it works for everyone out there. And at last, I would like to conclude with a line from Maya Angelou's poem Still I Rise. Living behind the nights of terror and fear, I rise into the daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, I rise. Thank you.